Well, look who the hell dropped by today on Stirring the Pot. It's Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Leo Connors. That's what I said, Leo Connors. What's up, man?
Not much, Don. Thanks for having me on. Me and you are pretty much doing similar things, showcasing the great talent in New England, which is second to none in my opinion.
Now, in COVID thing, lurk. Never mind. With the whole thing going on here, first off, how you doing? The family, everybody, you all right over there?
Yeah, everybody's doing good. We have no problems yet. My parents are both still alive. They're in their 80s. They're doing fine. They're not going out. Everybody's doing good. Everybody's safe. My girlfriend, she goes to work every day. All three of my kids are out of work, but they're collecting unemployment, but because they're all adults. But yeah, we're doing great. How about you, Don?
We're all right. The family, my mom and pop, they're older,
Yep.
my dad, he has a dog, so he kind of goes to the dog park and kind of does that thing to get out of the house,
Right.
But other than that, he's retired, so he's doing his thing. So we're all good, we're good.
Excellent.
So I don't know if you watch any of this, but
I've watched a couple.
Oh, all right. So, hey, so you kind of know what to expect.
Yep.
But now, boys and girls out there, this is going to be a little bit different because
Yes.
now Leo, he's not a wrestler. He's not a manager. He's not a ring announcer, a referee, but he does this cool show. And now correct me if I'm wrong. Out of New Hampshire?
Yes, Nashua, New Hampshire.
Man, the first time I found that out, because I said yes when we corresponded for the very first time, and I'm like, hell yeah, blah, blah, blah. We'll go out with the Radish sisters. And then I go, wait a minute, where are you from? And you're like, Nashua. And I go, oh, shit, that's like New Hampshire. And you're like, yeah. And I go, it's a little rough for me. That's like about 3+ hours for me for one way. Did I want to connect with Mr. Connors? Absolutely. That's a little tough for this kid.
So, I understand. I'm the same way as you. I don't like the 3.5 hour drives either, Don.
Yeah, I mean, if I have to do an hour to go sit with somebody, right, I'll do that, because I just started doing this thing on a whim to see if anybody would want to hang out. And I was doing face-to-face, one-on-one. So I would go to their place, or they wouldn't tell me their address and I'd have to meet them in a parking lot or a park or some wacky place.
Yeah,
I'll do that, I'll do that because we, the fans, like to get the stories from the men and women in our industry, no matter what they do, the referee and all the way, all across the spectrum. So to get you on here, it's kind of pretty cool because you've been doing this for way longer than I have. And I don't mean to say like way longer, like you're 80 or anything like that.
No, I'm 55.
So please explain to the fans who you are, what you do, and maybe take us on a little ride of how long you've been doing it, and we'll kind of start from there.
Okay. My name is Leo Connors. I grew up in Lowell, Mass. My whole life. I got 3 kids, but I started to do the show. What happened was I worked for the city of Nashua as a custodian, and I was the third shift assistant head custodian, and I worked in overtime one day, and these guys were standing there behind the 6-foot table with just 3 business cards. So I kept walking by him, and finally I'm like, guys, what's this all about? And they're like, oh, right down the street, we have a public access TV station, and we're looking for programming. So I asked them if I could have a show, and they said, yeah. And I went down like a week later, looked at it. Took about 2 or 3 months, but I got in the studio. This was 4 years ago. I did the first one, and it went well. I had Mr. Pat Dillon as my guest. The second show I did by myself, and I did not like it. I didn't like it at all. My goal was to have a guest every week. So I ended up having a friend of mine at the time, Derek Dukes. He came on as a guest on the 3rd episode. And then after the show was over, I asked him if he wanted to co-host with me. So he hung in there for about 40-something episodes, but he's blocked me now, and he don't like me anymore because people came on the show and talked about him, and he didn't like that. And then he went and lied about something, and someone called him on a lie. That's like a long story. We can tell that story another time, Don.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's basically what I've been doing.
Now, wrestling on any part of the spectrum, may it be in the ring, behind the scenes, media guys as you're such, you still find that little bit of drama, the little bit of politics that kind of sprinkle around. And I mean, it's in all walks of life. I'm not separating like wrestling. It's the only place, but it's there. And sometimes shit happens, and I get that. So we're good. We're glad to see you still rolling along though, because if you haven't caught it, where can we find it? Because I kind of bumped across Mr. Leo Connors one day from a friend through a friend. So that's how I found it. But where could we find it?
Okay, you can I post all my shows on YouTube under my name, Leo Connors, LeoConnors. I also post them on Facebook. I'll put them in the groups here and there once in a while and stuff. But I've been involved one way or another with wrestling for since 2002. To go way back, I used to go to shows and then started going to indie shows in '99. 2002, I went to Ring of Honor's very first show in Massachusetts in Wakefield. I went to the show and was blown away. By intermission, I was blown away. And I decided right then and there, I said, how could I be a part of this? And I thought about, I'm a chef, trained chef. So I decided, I saw Rob Feinstein, our rep, who owned Ring of Honor at the time, asked him for a picture, called him on Monday, and we started a deal where he paid me in merchandise, and I brought food. I catered for him for 2 years till he lost the company. We all know that. That was a hard, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. But I continued to cater through friendships I made. I ended up catering for Pro Wrestling Unplugged up in Philadelphia, which was owned by Johnny Cashmere and Trent Acid. I've done Jersey All Pro shows when they came to Massachusetts. I've done a Woman Superstars Unleashed, I think it's called, in New York. Mm-hmm. And then I did Tommy Dreamer's debut show, his 5th show, and his 13th show, all catering. And
the house, his House of Hardcore company, or
yes, House of Hardcore.
Okay, wow. So you've been intermingled with many of the top people in the industry, pretty much across the whole platform, from the bigger platforms to the indie scene being the not smaller, but just the other promotions, so it kind of goes on a scale, if you will. But so you've intermingled with quite some names, huh?
Oh yeah, a lot. I've met so many great guys, honestly, and they've all been, like you look at the roster in 2002 to 2004 of Ring of Honor. Some of the that's, to me, I might be biased, but I think that's the greatest roster in wrestling history in my eyes. I mean, you had guys.
Could you name 5 guys right now that you think we would all know?
Yeah, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, CM Punk, Christopher Daniels, Raven was even there for a while. Wow. The SAT, the Briscoe brothers, Special K. Which, did you ever hear of Special K?
I have.
That's my favorite faction in wrestling history. They're all a bunch of young rich kids. You know what I mean? Spending their parents' money on drugs and having raves. No, but they killed it because each kid was a really good wrestler. I mean, you had Azrael, was it? Jay Lethal was in Special K. And then 2 brothers, Brian and Adam Brower. They no longer wrestle no more. But they were Dixie and Izzy in Ring of Honor, Special K.
Man, Ring of Honor has produced some top of the industry names that, like you've mentioned right there. I've heard of all of them,
Yep.
Now, because you did the catering thing, I'm very curious right now. Could you share with the fans maybe is there anything specific, do guys ask for something specific, or you just cater and this is what you eat? Or has a Samoa Joe come up and be like, hey, Leo, this isn't really what I'm digging. How about you make me whip me up a little something? You got any of those kind of stories?
No, but I do have story. No, Samoa Joe will pretty much eat whatever's put in front of him. Just just to say it's true. He actually bringing him up was great because One time I was doing the Jersey All Pro show, and me and my girl was out back, and we were having a cigarette. And she said to me, she goes, "I thought you said Samoa Joe was here." I said, "He's supposed to be." She goes, "Oh," and she looks at me and says, "Do you think he'll remember you?" I said, "Won't know my name, but I guarantee he remembers me." Just as I said that, a cab pulls up. Joe gets out of the cab, comes walking up, walks right up to me, shakes my hand, and says, "Is there food in there?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "You're the man," and walked away. And my girlfriend Maria goes, "Wow, you're right. He knew exactly who you were." But all those guys are great. Prince Nana tried to pay me with a credit card one time, and I'm like, "It's free. Yeah, the food's taken care of with merchandise, you know?" But I
Oh
had a lot
man.
of fun. I met Trent Acid, who introduced me to, like, every time I would do a catering job, he would introduce me to somebody else as we would partake in something that we both enjoy. A little bit of
Hey,
the herb, you
hey,
know?
the devil's lettuce. I'm good with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, come on, we're an
So,
open forum. It's okay.
right. So there were times like he introduced me to Sean the Mick, who was running WSU. Teddy Hart, we get sat in my car and smoked 3 bones, like just between the three of us in 10 minutes. Jack Evans, you know what I mean? He just introduced me to so many guys. But
Wow.
a lot of guys I made like friendships, relationships with, let's say. Like I've been
Mhm.
watching Danny Moff kill it since 2004. I'm a huge Danny Moff fan. And when he came up to Chaotic, you know what I mean? It was cool because I had met him before. I hit him up on Facebook, you know? Said, "Oh, I'll be at the show, da 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 da." So when the show was over, I asked the kid I knew that works for Chaotic, he's training down there, if he could go get Diddy. He came out, you know what I mean, to see me. It's pretty cool because you meet these guys and you really, you want them to be cool, because you meet like someone you look up to, and when you meet guys like that and they're that great, it's just so awesome,
It's got to be, especially looking back, maybe where you are right now, and I mean, we all have time on our hands, but
Yeah.
just on a regular day, you're just kind of doing your thing, and then these memories just like must pop out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, definitely. So many memories. I have a really the guy that's down in your area, Slick Wagner Brown, running the Test of Strength. I've known Slick a long time. Huge fan. Always loved Slick. My youngest daughter, Sarah, her favorite wrestler is Slick
Oh, really?
Wagner Brown. Yep.
Wow.
So
That laugh of his is just beyond infectious, isn't it?
yeah, it is. Now, do you go to all his shows?
You bet your ass I do.
I have to get down there because, I should have already. I've liked Slick so much and I've known him for so long. It's bad on me that I haven't got down there yet. At least once, taking that 3-hour drive, to support someone that I respect.
Now, you do have an alternative now, though, Mr. Connors. And when we get back to some kind of normalcy or what have you, you do have an option to not drive as far because they do take it from the training days, which is in their home base in East Hartford. They've moved it and they've gone on the road shows. Okay. They call them road shows.
Okay.
We, the fans, some that I'm associated with, we
Yep.
call them the pay-per-view shows. That's what I like to call them. All right.
Right. Yeah.
Now, they've done their first one was Fight for Your Dreams, and it was at the Deuce in Northampton. And I know you're familiar with the Deuce.
Yeah, I am.
So they've had a handful of shows throughout the year. Now they've sprinkled it in with some Tazrac, so the people around the East Hartford area could go to the Valley, and that's in like Naugatuck.
Okay.
So they've been kind of going between both places, the Deuce and Tazrac. So I'm just saying it, not as far of a drive for one, Mr. Connors, okay?
No, that's a great. I'm glad you because I had no idea they did that. And
Yeah.
like I said, I mean, I've known Slick for so long. First picture that my daughter was ever in, my youngest daughter was with Slick. My first picture of my son with the wrestler was Slick. I had my grandson, Slick and Todd Smith, right? Ivar was standing there, and I didn't think I brought him to Ivar first. I should have went as soon as I did it, right? I'm like, I saw Slick, and I'm like, oh man. I could have had all 3 kids' first picture taken with Slick.
That is amazing. Now, that's how avid of a fan you are because you've been going continually to all of these shows and bringing your children to them.
Yeah, my son, who's now 30, He was the first one. My oldest daughter, Elizabeth, she went to WWE shows. She didn't really like to go to indie shows. So it was first I took my son. Like I said, he's 30 now. And then there was Sarah, who's a senior in high school. She's 18. And then my grandson. But my grandson don't like wrestling no more. And he's only 12, while the other kids went way past 12 going to wrestling shows with me.
Yeah.
You know? So it kind of bums me out that he's not a fan no more.
I was just about to say that's the last little one you have kind of for the wrestling feel, you know?
Yeah. For now, at least, until somebody gives me another grandchild, you know?
Just saying.
Exactly. But but just want to say back to Slick, you know what I mean? He's always been like a guy that I looked up to in the ring, you know what I mean? The way he worked hard, you know? How he, showed respect and all that, just to even fans. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, the guy's amazing. And I've been a fan of his since the first time I saw him. Mm-hmm. Him and your guest you had the other day, too, Bo Douglas.
Okay. You have to mention Bo Douglas. All right. Now, check that. I love Slick Wagner Brown. I'm not sliding that. I'm not pushing that to the side.
Right.
Bo Douglas, I boo the holy piss out of that guy.
Right.
And he gives me the flaming eyes and gives me the mouth and stuff, which I'm down with. I dig it. But I always chant, and I hope somebody would continue with me. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Right. And I'll be the only one out there going, Bo don't know. Bo don't know. And I've come to an agreement after my conversation with one Bo Douglas. I will never again say Bo don't know. Right. And I will boo him. That I will not stop, because that's the way I am with him.
Right.
So, but I will give him Bo knows. I will totally give him that 1,000%.
Nice. And Bo was actually, there was 3 wrestlers I met at the same time. I met Jason Rumble, Bo Douglas, and Jimmy Allen, Trooper Gilmore, Chainsaw, Crazy Bastard. You know what I'm talking about?
That Chainsaw, I'm not familiar.
Okay. But, Trooper Gilmore, Paulie Gilmore. I met them all at an NWA New England show. I had called Jason up remember the magazine that would come out and it would say Your Guide to the Independents, and it had every independent promotion that people would write in to tell them about. So I called the number and I told them I just started catering for Ring of Honor, so I had all kinds of merchandise. So I called the NWA New England line and talked to Jason and asked him if I could sell my merchandise. And he was like, sure. Yeah. So that night I met Jason, Bo, and Trooper. I met a lot of other guys, but those were the 3 guys that like really made me feel at home, like I was one of them from the first time I met them, you know? And then I want to say Slick was on that show, and I really got to know him better, started to get to know him better the next show that I did. But I always go back to Jason, you know what I mean? Trooper Gilmore and Bo Douglas as the first 3 wrestlers that I ever talked to that ever showed me respect and just were really cool. Not just to me, to other fans too.
Right.
You know?
That's what I find is there's a very, I talk a lot about relationship between fans and wrestlers and even referees, because we interact with the ref. Oh God, I'm not even going to say his name.
All right.
But that's the dance that I talk about, because without all of us, it's just not the same. You take one of those elements away, and we're feeling it right now with the empty arenas.
Yeah.
You take an element out of it, if it's poor wrestling, or if it's poor showmanship as a wrestler, or if it's just fans sitting on their hands and not being interactive, you lose those elements, man. That whole dance just doesn't work, you know?
Yes. I thought they pulled off WrestleMania pretty well, considering there was no fans. I hadn't been watching much wrestling over the last few weeks. I have watched NXT and AEW, I'll say that. But Raw and SmackDown, I've been pretty much reading the results online and watching what I want, which is always a Viking Raiders match. You know what I mean? Always make sure I see that. A Samoa Joe match if he's wrestling. You know, certain guys I always watch. Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar, obviously. You know what I mean? So I usually fast forward a lot of stuff. But I'll watch AEW and I'll watch NXT. You know,
all the way through,
all the way through. Yes, and I rotate too. Like somebody asked me the other day, what do I watch first? One week I'll watch AEW first. The next week I'll watch NXT first. You know, I don't have a favorite. If I did, I'd probably lean more till NXT. They've been around a little longer, right? I've never been a huge Young Bucks fan. And I'll tell you why. They took one of the greatest finishing maneuvers and turned it into a joke, the super kick. I mean, Shawn Michaels only needed to kick you once, and he'd kick your head off, and the match is over. These guys are kicking little kids and stuff. I'm sorry. I'm not saying they're not talented wrestlers. I'm just saying they're not for me. You know what I mean? I'm not a Young Bucks fan. Cody Rhodes, I think, is a great wrestler. I may get heat for this, too. But guess what? He wrestled in the WWE for 7 years, and he couldn't get over. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just saying, I don't think Cody Rhodes is the best wrestler in the world. I think he's really good. Really good. Just like a lot of other really good wrestlers. You know what I mean? These people that say all these things about, oh, he's a wrestling god, you know? Kenny Omega, great wrestler. Never say he isn't, you know? But the guys that are drawing me to AEW is a Kenny Omega, who I really like, MJF, and all the other guys that are below, you know, Cody and the Young Bucks and stuff on there. I like Hangman Page. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's stepped up his character once they left, because it was starting to build in ROH. Then once they all left the ROH little by little here, and then they started building the AEW, you could see it even from when they very first were doing that first outside thing. When they were coming outside, it was really windy. It was a nighttime thing. They had like colored lights coming on the stage. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And then they were all coming out one by one, or like SoCal came out together, or SCU, I'm sorry. They came out as a pair. But you could see right there, that very first time, Hangman Page coming out and just his swagger and feel and going, I'm owning this effing company, man. I am going to make this happen. You could see it right there.
Absolutely. You could literally see it. And he's going to be a huge star. I mean, I think we both know he really already is. You know what I mean? But he's going to get bigger. He is. MJF is going to get bigger. That kid is the greatest heel in wrestling right now. I think he is. What do you think?
Well, what happens is, I was at a Beyond Americana, okay?
Yeah.
And it was at Foxwoods this past year.
I didn't go to that one. I wish I did.
It was a gigantic crowd. It's probably the biggest crowd because NEW really puts on some big crowds and some cool shows. Okay. Northeast Wrestling.
Right. Yes. Oh, absolutely.
So walking in there, but because of the way the setup of Beyond is, a lot of the fans were standing around the ring. Now, once fans stand around the ring and there's a lot of people, it's not people standing around the ring. It's almost like a mosh pit of people.
Right.
But everybody's cool. It's not crazy. But I'm saying the amount of people just grows and grows and grows and grows.
And they're right up against the ring. I've been right there at a Beyond show, right there. Crazy.
So never mind all the people that are sitting in the seats. And this room that they had it in was ginormous.
Ballroom.
Like thousands and thousands and thousands of people could have sat in this place. And there was a good few. I don't know how to judge that amount of people, but I'm going to say anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000. I don't know, man. There was a lot of effing people there. There was a ton of people there.
Right. They had a lot of pro boxing at that place too. So it's probably exactly what they used for that, you know?
So my setup for this is, we're outside at an intermission. MJF has already made an appearance, okay? It was a surprise appearance, okay?
Okay.
Well, actually, there was 2 intermissions because it was a 5.5 hour long show. Yeah. So one of the intermissions, and I knew some of the guys that were there, and we're kind of hanging out bullshit. And then here comes MJF, and one of the guys goes, MJF, hit me with a couple of your lines. Or he said something like I don't know how he said it, not demeanor me, but he was like, hey, MJF, talk shit to me or something like that.
Yeah.
And then MJF was like, and kept walking.
Yep.
Some heels that don't have that solid, and I'm going to call it kayfabe, that solid kayfabeness about them, will maybe stop and cut a promo on you real quick. And I know it's a bigger show, but some might. MJF is this kid that is actually living this gimmick like Ric Flair would do, because go to the airport, he's Ric Flair. Go to convenience store, he's in the limo, he's Ric Flair. Yeah, anything, anywhere, anytime, he was Ric Flair. That right now is MJF. And if you've listened to the Chris Jericho podcast with MJF sometime back last year,
right,
he has learned everything from old school wrestling.
Yes, because I did listen to that. I did.
So to me, I'm sorry. To me, MJF, a hit, obviously, of a character, and that dude is. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad WWE didn't get him, because he wouldn't be able to probably stay his character.
Exactly, dude. You're so right.
Yeah, give me some of that.
All right, so MJF is probably the best heel in wrestling right now. And he can work like crazy. You know what I mean? He's so good in the ring, never mind just with the microphone. I remember seeing a video of him that he was at the table signing autographs, and a little kid comes up in a wheelchair, and he goes to the kid, "How you doing?" And the kid goes, "Good, how are you?" He goes, "Oh, I'm doing way better than you." He get up and started walking around. That's incredible heat, though. And like you said, he lives that gimmick. You know what I mean? He was trained by some great guys, too. Brian Myers and Pat Buck. That Creator Pro has been putting out nothing but phenomenal wrestlers. I want to say I saw MJF for the first time at Live. Was at a Beyond, but I went to a Limitless show. And me and my friend Dan went up early so we could drink, and that way when the show was over, we would be able to drive home and not be drunk, So we're having a good time, smoking and drinking in the parking lot, and a car pulls up. And you see MJF get out, and he's talking with his buddies that he drove up with. I forget the other wrestlers that were there, but he's laughing and doing all that. Then he goes back in the car. He sits down, and he turns around and looks at us. And as soon as he seen us, his demeanor went from right into character. Like he saw us looking at him, and he immediately, and within 1 second, went from having a smile on his face to the disdain look on his face, because he saw two marks looking at him. That's how I'd say it. I think he's the best in the business right now.
Yeah, man. Very enjoyable. And the thing about him, though, and I know his mouth is one of his best tools,
yes,
but he's really good in the ring. He knows the psychology. You can tell. But the story, Leo, is what we really like to talk about on here. When I talk to the men and women promoters, no matter what part they are, the storyline, without it, I love the storyline and the in-ring prowess. I don't mind in-ring prowess and not the story. I can watch it, like when AEW very first started, the people that I was associated with that are tight with wrestling, they're like, what the fuck is this? They've got no storylines. And I'm like, you need some time. It's brand new.
Right.
But people need storylines. Are you a storyline guy? And I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, yes, because of just that MJF conversation.
Yeah, I'm definitely a storyline guy. That's why I go to chaotic shows the most around here, because they have a storyline with almost every single match. It also helps that they, have their shows a half an hour from my house. You know what I mean? Seriously, it's the truth.
Well, can I just say I hate you because you live so close and I live so far?
No, I got a lot of good shows, but you got NEW. You know what I mean? You must go to their show. That show, I'd love to go to their shows.
Well, you've named some names, and that's kind of where I want to talk about, because you've named Chaotic and I've named Northeast Wrestling. And between those two, they've had associated talent. And I'm going to use, because you've mentioned them a couple times, Warbeard Hansen. I'm not calling him Ibar. I've heard you call him Ibar. I can't. I just can't. I'm sorry. Like Dijak. I can't call him Dijakovic or whatever the hell they're called. I just can't.
Do you call him handsome? Because he'll always be Handsome Johnny to me, for real. Like, you know what I mean? because that's the character and the name that I watched him I watched him just rise, man. Mm-hmm. Even at the beginning, when he was first teaming with Raymond Rowe before he got to the WWE, he was Warbeard Handsome. He just changed from Handsome, but Handsome Johnny, he'll always be that to me.
Now, he's been a chaotic champion.
Yes.
He's been a Northeast Wrestling champion. Yep. And I'm going to stay on because I know a little bit more of the history. You know more of the history of the chaotic championship. But Cody Rhodes recently, before he came into the ROH thing, champion. Darby Allin, before he finished his tenure and then started with AEW, champion.
Great talent.
You mentioned Dan Moff.
Yep.
And right now, he's the current Northeast Wrestling champion. Now, with that being said, and why I progressed to this, when that company has you as champion 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, you're on the next cusp of the Performance Center or being in the spotlight of an AEW or an ROH. Look at what Matt Taven did when he was injured and created the kingdom, the new kingdom. And NEW brought him to ROH, and son of a bitch, look at him now.
Wow.
So you're a big, huge Dan Moff fan. Yes. Now, my question and why I'm leading to this, the character that he portrays, what if, hypothetically, NXT picks him up, he goes to the Performance Center, we start seeing him on TV, and he's got a weird name, and his character is just not quite the same. How does Leo feel as a person who's really seen him on the upcoming?
I'm 100% thrilled that he's getting the opportunity, wishing that he probably got to keep the name. No matter what he is, I'll always be a Dan Moff fan. He's always just been a great guy and a hell of a talent, a powerhouse. Now, I got to ask you this, though. I think the last NEW show, I don't know if it was canceled because of all this. I can't, remember the times of everything. But did Dan get to defend that title against Keith Youngblood, another guy I'm pretty high on?
He did. I believe it was at the last Bethany show, which is kind of almost like their little home shows. It holds about 250 people at a town hall in Bethany. Nice. So when there's inclement weather, they have no control over it. They close pretty immediately when it's coming to inclement weather and stuff like that. But my point being is Keith Youngblood did get a chance, but there was chairs involved. So they were taking that story and extending it to which was supposed to be the next one. And there was supposed to be more chairs legally involved.
Well, I'll tell you what, I noticed Keith Youngblood when he was tag teaming with Daniel Evans. I was really, really impressed by Adrenaline Rush. I saw them around here somewhere. And I was like, wow, man, these guys are really good. You could tell. So I happened to talk to a guy that was there. It ended up being Chris, who was Keith's father. So I ended up talking to him for I know exactly where it was. It was at a Lucky Pro show, and me and my grandson went. Yeah. And Chris, Keith's father's a hell of a guy. Mm-hmm. I had so much fun talking to him, but he was filling me in on everything about Keith when he was young, when he played sports, this and that. Proud dad, which I am also, a proud father of my kids. But so how long have you been watching Keith Youngblood wrestle?
Well, see, now I guess my real solid starting of indie wrestling was only 2016-ish. I want to say.
Wow. Okay. So you're feeling new to it.
Yeah, because other than that, I've very, very sporadically have gone to some shows throughout the years because I was more tied into music, and that really took up a lot of my time. And, I had the daughter and stuff, and I watched wrestling. God, did I ever watch wrestling? That was back in the days. And don't tell anybody because it was illegal. But you remember when you had the scramblers?
Oh, yeah, the black box. Oh, yeah, I had them.
Oh, my God. I would have Monday Night Raw on one TV in the living room. I would take my TV from my bedroom and have Monday Night Nitro on the other one. And my wife absolutely effing hated it. And then she kind of got used to it, warmed up a little bit. We had some fun with it. But I was a big wrestling fan But the indie thing, like I said, 2016, I took a ride one day for shits and giggles, went up to South Hadley, saw Pioneer Valley Pro Championship Wrestling, and I don't know, I kind of dug it. The atmosphere between going to a WWE show, you're so away from it, even if you're close to it, if that makes any sense.
It makes sense.
But here, nah, you're there. And it kind of, any seat is a good seat at an indie show. We all like the front row and stuff and all of that good stuff. But man, any seat at an indie show is a good seat. And holy crap, is it just so much fun. And the thing with me with indie wrestling and the bigger platforms, yes, do we see a little more miscues because we're closer, we're tighter, we're our eyes are glued to what they're doing. Okay, yeah. Is it as polished as the bigger platforms? Maybe sometimes, maybe not sometimes.
Right.
Do I want to sit there and like throw that garbage out at the men and women like some fans do? No. And that's why the guys and girls that are fans of wrestling that only go to the big shows, they kind of look down on independent wrestling. Me, I'm the opposite, man. I love, and I mean, I'm El Jabroni's biggest fan. Are you shitting me? If I don't love indie wrestling, then I mean, that's got to say something right there. Oh, hail El Jabroni. And I'm not, no slight on El Jabroni because we love him.
Yeah.
But I'm just using it as an example. I love to lift independent wrestling. And that's why I do this. And that's the only reason why I do this. Because, I mean, besides that, I love the shit out of it.
Right. No, I agree. That's exactly why I do it. You know, honestly, this whole time was I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to showcase the great talent of New England. And I'll be honest with you, it took a long time for me to get a guest for every week. But once I hit a certain point, something happened. I don't know if it was a certain guest, but all of a sudden, at one point, Dawn, I was booked 7 months in advance.
That's awesome.
7-8 months in advance. I went up to Anthony Green and said, hey, man, when are you going to do my show? And you know what he said? When you're not booked 7 or 8 months in advance. So guess what? I stopped booking way in advance, and I ended up getting Anthony Green. You know? I've gotten lucky, man. I've got to interview a whole bunch of great wrestlers. I've interviewed Flip Gordon, you know, Brian Malonis. Those two guys right alone, you know, they're moving on to bigger and better things. Josh Briggs. And Josh Briggs, if I'm not mistaken, it might even be his first podcast or any show he ever did. I don't know. I'd have to ask him. But I've been very blessed. Mike Hollow, trainer Mike Hollow, he hit me up on Facebook, on instant message. I was flipping out. I'll never forget it because my girlfriend was making dinner in the kitchen and my grandson was helping her. And she just got home, so she's going to hear me tell the story. But I came running into the kitchen and said, oh, my God, Mike Hollow just said he liked and he said, I like some of your episodes. So the first thing I thought is, he don't like some of them either. The negative part, right? But no, I'm trying to tell them I'm so excited. Mike Hollow. They're like, who the hell's Mike Hollow? They didn't know him. Do you know what I mean? But so I had him on the line. I asked him. Boom, he said yes. You know? I've got Knuckles Nelson, guys that I've had no relationship whatsoever, who after doing the show say nice things about me. You know, it's like will hit me up and say thank you, and they'll be like, "Man, you're a really great guy. We should hang out sometime." It's hilarious. I say, yeah. You know what I mean? Just nice to have these conversations with people that I looked up to and enjoyed you know what I mean? They entertain the crap out of me. You know. And then you get to meet them and interview them. I've been blessed. I've interviewed a lot of good people.
You know, doing this whole Skype thing is different for me, obviously, and we're at a weird time right now. Right. I would do an interview very sporadically. Sometimes I had them lined up for a little bit, but I only had maybe, I don't know, 20 episodes because I was just doing some here and there. And then I did a bunch of them in a row, but I was only releasing them as a weekly thing on a Sunday afternoon at 12 p.m.
Gotcha.
And then if it was wicked long, I would kind of do it in a two-parter so I could actually extend, you know, my material. Okay. Some liked it, some didn't, but I mean, it was the way I was just trying to feel it out, you know?
Right.
But then I started, holy shit, Leo. I started doing this thing. And I mean, I'm in the midst of like from this past Sunday to this Saturday coming up because why I do this. I don't know what the hell
You're doing 3 a day.
That's 3 a night after work, 4 on a Saturday, 4 or sometimes 5 on a Sunday.
Wow.
So from Sunday, this past one, to Saturday coming up, I have 24 interviews lined up in 1 week.
That's awesome, dude. You're doing great things for these people.
Well, that's what I found that it's, I don't want to say it's therapeutic, but I've heard that term a couple times.
Yeah.
As they said, you know,
Right.
Because there's a lot of shit going on upstairs in everybody right now. How are we going to make our car payments? How are we going to keep our jobs? What the hell is going to happen in the next week or the next month? We just don't know. Where is my wrestling? When is it coming back? I needed new gear or I'm getting new gear. Dude, these guys and girls are going absolutely bat fucking crazy right now. And if I'm cussing too much, I apologize.
No, don't worry. I fucking cuss too.
So I feel just hanging out and talking to these people, it's been good for me. It's been good for them. And it's been good for some of the fans that I'm associated with that actually watch it on a regular basis because they're like, dude, this part they're reaching out and they'll be like, dude, I watched Christina Marie. It was amazing. And man, this part right here. And I'm getting those kind of like messages on the sides. And I'm like, holy shit, this is exactly what I wanted. Yeah. I wanted everybody to have fun with it, and son of a bitch, I think it's working a little bit, you know.
Yeah. I had goals when I started the show. You know what I mean? Like, you know, at first I wasn't getting a wicked lot of views, but then I told my girl, I said, I want to see how fast I can get to 100 views. Mm-hmm. And at one point it was like 36 hours, and then I had Delilah Hayden on, and she shattered it. About 16 hours, I had like 108, 110 views, which I thought was phenomenal because a lot of people thought I was going to bash her because she wasn't trained. But that's not me. I'm not like that. You know what I mean? And I had Maverick Wild come on and Todd Graham hit me up, a guy that replaced me when I had to cancel on you a couple weeks ago, unfortunately.
How fitting was that? That was so crazy.
Absolutely. And he hit me up as soon as the show was over. He goes, man, thanks, man. You did really good. I thought you guys were going to bash her. And I knew we wouldn't. I knew I wasn't. I knew Mav wasn't. I wanted to get Mav on there with me so she could understand, like, hearing it from a real respected veteran, how important it is. That's, you know what I mean? So I never wanted her to lose bookings or anything, Don, you know? And she's a great kid. Great girl.
Still in the game, still doing some fun stuff. Got her personality is amazing, you know.
She's a sweetheart.
Explain to the fans, because we've talked a lot about a lot of different things. Right. We've mentioned the show. We've talked about some of your guests, and that's really what it's about, because you get these cool little goosebumps as you throw names out and you talk about the memories of who you've talked to and what they've said and stuff like that. And it's the same thing at my household. I'll throw out, holy shit, I just got blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, what? Right. And I'm like, dude. But tell us, the fans, really, what's your show? What is it based on? And like, you know, we're trying to push the talent. We got that. But what's the basis of besides that? And what's the format? It's on public access. How long does it run? What kind of format it is? And like, what kind of guests do you have on? Is it just wrestlers?
No. Okay. My show, it's an hour show. I have everything that loves wrestling. And I've had fans on, ring announcers, commentators. I just had Davis Wright on. I don't know if you're familiar with Davis Wright, but what a great interview that was. What a great guy. You know, I just met him. I got to go back to this real quick. Sonny Goodspeed and Maverick Wild has helped my show more than anyone. You know, when I can't get a guest, I tell them, and all of a sudden the guest is answering my messages. I had, you know, Dave Padula, right? Dave, you know Dave Padula from down in Rhode Island? Well, Dave's a good friend of mine too. I love Dave. He came up to do the show. And he's like, man, you've been having a hard time getting anybody. And I said, yeah, I haven't gotten Flip Gordon. He hasn't got back to me. He said, you want Flip Gordon? I said, yeah. He goes, okay, I'll get back to you tomorrow. The next day, he said, hey, next time I come up, we'll just have Flip take my appearance instead. So here, I got people looking out for me, helping me. Sonny Goodspeed got me Brian Fury once. And Maverick ended up getting him the next time. Even though I don't know why it took them to get him, seeing I've been a fan of Brian Fury since he first started wrestling. But all kidding aside, I've gotten to interview some great people, man. Honestly, Sheldon Goldberg, Brian Fury, Ryan Drew. You know what I mean? So many. I don't want to miss anybody, but Tony Roy, just so many great. Jason Rumble, Bo Douglas, Dante Luna, all these great people. Sonny Goodspeed,
Now, the way I've been kind of doing it is I just kind of go off the cuff and with nothing written down. And sometimes I get lost. Sometimes I jumble timelines. I kind of do my thing. How is yours formatted? And when you present questions, and maybe what kind of questions do you present?
Okay. I usually at the beginning have a little get to know you interview where I ask you where you're from, where you first started watching wrestling, were your friends and family into it, who are your favorites, first show, WWE, first indie show, you know what I mean? If they're wrestlers, who trained you, who was in the class, tell us about your first match. That's all in the very beginning. Okay. Then I'll usually I'll either go through their career. If I know their career myself, I'm all set. If I don't, I go to it's called Wrestling Cage Match Database. You ever see that one? So I'll go to there and see who they've wrestled. You know what I mean? So I'll go through the career. I ask fans for questions. I make a post every show for, you know what I mean, for my upcoming guests for fan questions. So it's total format all the way. And then at the end, I like to play a thing called the name game, which I stole from someone. I don't know who. I can't remember. That's one of my favorite parts, the name game, because a lot of people think I'm just going to throw names that that everyone knows they're associated with. No, I try to pull names up, you know what I mean? Obscure names. You know what I mean? I noticed they wrestled in Maryland or something.
What is the name game? Give us. All
right, the name game. I'll be let's say with you. So you would I'd say the name, and you either give me a story. You tell me if you like him or if you don't like him. You know what I mean? You don't even have to say anything about him if you don't want to. You know what I mean? And I do try to keep it with someone that I definitely know, like you would know. Like I would say to you, Dan the Man. And you'd tell me all about what you like or don't like about Dan the Man. Or a funny story you might have. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
He dresses as Santa Claus, puts a white mink coat on with a Santa Claus hat every single year, and it's lit up. He thinks he's got this Chris Jericho lighty jackety thing going on, and he gives crappy ass presents to the fans every single year. Okay, I've gotten a box of Triscuits, and it had twine in it. I still have it. It's right over. It's right over there. Are you shitting? Why I saved it, I don't know. But that's the crap that Dan the Man. Why would you pick Dan the Man out of everybody in the entire industry? Holy crap.
I did. I picked him up because aren't you interviewing him tonight?
No, I have him coming up on a Saturday very soon.
Okay.
Now, I always set an hour.
Oh, you have that? I know you have. I'm sorry.
Okay, so what I do is say tonight I have Leo at 5. Right. My next interview tonight is going to be at 7. That gives me a buffer to be comfortable. I don't want to set it to any certain time. I just kind of like to end it when we, we're feeling it, because there might be a follow-up down the road. I can't ask everything, and I can't remember everything. That's for sure.
Yeah, me either.
But Dan the Man, his is at 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock sharp on a Saturday. I made sure that I set my next one for 4 o'clock. So 4 hours that I might have to suck up and deal with Dan the Man. And I know I'm close to the camera, and I'm sorry, I'm not that pretty. But just trying to stress what's happening in my life in the future. That's all I'm saying.
It's funny because I only did pick Dan to me because I've never met Dan. I've only seen him wrestle a couple of times at the UFO shows, pretty talented guy, but I had no idea that he dressed up like that and was set. And, they have, I think, do you have Dirtbag Dan on your show tonight?
Tonight. Yes.
Yeah.
It's you, Karen Bam Bam.
Yeah.
Dirtbag Dan.
Oh, man, that's going to be a good one. I think they're all good. Don't get me wrong. But, yeah, Dirtbag Dan, I'm a fan.
Now, I've been hit with his chemical warfare. I'm not sure if you know what that is.
No, I actually don't, because I've only seen him wrestle once. Seriously.
He takes this and he hammers it right in. Yeah.
Like the Knobs, Brian Knobs.
Yes. I call it chemical warfare because you should die because he doesn't use soap. He's Dirtbag Dan. But I've seen him do it to refs. Like when they check your legs, he always gets them when they're on the coming up. And I just die laughing. Well, one time he kind of got thrown onto me and gave it to me. And I was like, you son of a bitch. And one more, if I might digress. Now, I sit there with my phone and I didn't used to do full matches. I used to do little clips. I would try to read what's going on and do little clips real quick because not all companies want full matches,
Right.
So now that I know who is and who isn't comfortable with full matches at Battlefront Pro, it's this big freaking hardcore melee thing going on. It was a tag team thing, if I'm not mistaken, for the belts or something crazy going on.
Right.
And Yusuf and Dan Gore are in front of me. And there's Dirtbag in the ring. He goes to run the ropes to fly and do a suicide dive. All right. Now, he runs. They start working their way. And I'm like, fight forever. And then here comes Dirtbag Dan. From a suicide dive turns into a spinning wheel kick and slams me. I go down.
Whoa.
You can see footage. The phone goes flippy, bam. You see that it's dark and everybody's like, oh shit. So I grab my phone, I turn it to my face, and I got a Dirtbag Dan bump on my forehead.
Wow, that's a great story. That is awesome. I've never been hit by any wrestler, luckily.
And he brought in his cousin, Johnny Chill. I don't know if you're familiar.
No, I'm not.
The whole they're not together anymore, but it used to be the Philly family. It was Dirtbag Dan, Big Cal Stevens, and Johnny Chill. Now, Johnny Chill is like my size, very young, kind of rockerish, if you will, like a skinny Shawn Michaels, because he is my size.
Right.
And he was sitting next to me, and he laughed his ever-loving head off that this all went down. I'm like, you son of a bitch. You knew this was happening. He's like, no, I didn't. I swear. As tears are coming down his eyes because he's laughing.
He's laughing so hard.
Oh, my God.
That's awesome.
Dirtbag Dan and me, we have a long-running relationship, and it's nothing but good times. I love Dirtbag Dan.
Nice. Now, someone besides Slick that I consider a friend down there in Connecticut wrestling is a guy by the name of Bobby Ocean. I've known Bobby for over a decade. Honestly and truthfully, one of the nicest guys I've ever met. I had one of my favorite pictures I have of Bobby and my young Sarah when she was about maybe 11, 12 years old, but he's always just been like one of those guys. I've seen him at shows with one of the kids. If he sees me next time and the kid's not there, always, how's your daughter? Where's she tonight? Just a hell of a guy and a stiff guy in the ring. I'll tell you what, I noticed it one time I sat ringside, Don. I didn't realize how stiff he was. Big time.
That's why they call him hard hitting, first off. And second, when you're talking to Bobby Ocean, and for you boys and girls that don't know Bobby Ocean, get on the old social media, look that, not that, you know what, any of the names, literally, if the fans that are actually watching this to check out maybe some of the personalities they don't know, and whatever name that Mr. Leo Connors has said, I'm telling you, they're all fantastic. You should really look these people up. But Bobby Ocean, very soft spoken when you're in conversation. Then he gets in the ring and he will clean your clock off. Holy crap.
Yeah. Last summer at the Fenway show, I brought a cameraman with us. We paid him $15 an hour, minimum 4 hours. Went up there and we did a lot of little quick promos with wrestlers for my other show, the Dropkick Kitchen.
Oh, okay.
I do that with Sonny Goodspeed. We do it in Hudson. It's a cooking show. I'm the chef. He's the host. It's a half-hour show, you know. But yeah. So I'm sorry. What was the question again? I lost my train of thought.
We were talking Bobby Ocean. That's quite all right.
Edible, you know. Yes, Bobby Ocean. I'm sorry. Back to the Fenway thing. So I interviewed him a little half hour, and I interviewed somebody else, and for the life, man, can't remember who it was. But sitting down with Bobby was so awesome. I think it was Chad Epic. That's who I sat down with, the other one. But sitting down with Bobby was such a long, he was always on my list in my head, but I never really asked him because I knew he lived in Connecticut. Do you know what I mean? So finally, I did hit him up, and he's like, man, Leo, that's really far, you know? I said, well, how about we try to do something at Fenway? And he jumped all over it. And like you said, soft-spoken, big heart. If he likes you, he lets you know he likes you. He really does. And I could tell, I go to shake his hand, and he's like, no, come in. He gives me a real hug, too, not like a patting you on the back. He gives you a hug because that's just the type of guy he is. You know? I love Bobby Ocean. Great guy.
I've never once heard a bad word about Bobby. He's very respected from the people that I associate with and I've talked to and stuff. Never heard a bad word about Bobby Ocean. Any of the guys. I don't mean slight, but we stay, as we're on topic, so.
I want to ask you about this one other thing. You said a name earlier. Is it just Yusef or is it two words for his name? Because I want to start checking him out. I seen him in a match once on YouTube, and he kind of impressed me, man. So is it just Yusef?
Well, it's I don't want to get this wrong because he's a mean guy at times. Okay. He's a good. There's like 3 or 4 of him. That's the thing. If you ever interview him, yes, yeah. There's a few things going on in Mr. Yusef's head. Okay, right now basically he's called Yusef 13 with the number 13. Okay. It's a number thing. He enjoys it. That's why Elijah 6 is one of his he is one of Elijah 6's biggest fans. I'm telling you that right now. Okay. Elijah. But his whole name is, let me try to get this correctly. Unichromium Savage Assault Force.
You lost me on the first name.
I know.
I understood the other ones.
I know. That's why when he says Yusef 13, I go, I can do that one.
Right.
The elongated one. It's an acronym thing that he does. That's why he makes it. It's USAF to make Yusef.
Yep. Nice.
So yeah, I don't really call him that. I just say Mr. Yusef. Yeah.
So he calls us. Yeah. Well, if he's a big guy, you don't want to be. You want to be careful around guys like that.
Again, upstairs, you have a few guys to deal with. So if you get them on your show, good luck, have fun, and be careful. That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate that, Don. And I'm going to definitely try to get down that area, once or twice every year because I'm not familiar. I call myself a New England independent wrestler, not an expert, but I sure know a lot about it. But I don't know hardly anything about down there. You know what I mean? Massachusetts, I'm pretty good with all that, Some in Rhode Island, you know what I mean? But I need to get down to Connecticut. I definitely need to get to an NEW show. I told my girl this before. We should go down and we can get a hotel. I'll take her out for a nice dinner and lunch the next day. But I need to get my ass to an NEW show because the shows they put on, and now, the champion is one of my favorites. So now's the time to go down there. As soon as they come back, I need to see Dan Moff as the NEW champ. Maria knows, my girl knows. I've been a huge Dan Moff fan since I first saw him wrestle.
Hey, you can make that happen. I mean, I know I say that I can't get to certain places, and I should just I got to get my ass up there because for you've got to come down. For me, I got to go up. And sometimes I want to go to the Jersey stuff, and it's still just a little. It's like 3 hours for me going down that way, and so, I don't know. I just gotta pull the trigger on some of this shit, Well,
you're right about that because I'd like to go to a Game Changer wrestling show. That looks to be like a lot of fun. I actually know Danny DeMonto pretty good. And if I ever did decide to go to one of their shows, I'd probably call them up and try to cater it. Honestly, no, really, because like I said, I know Danny. I met him a few times. Nice guy, always treated me with respect. You know what I mean? As I treat everyone with respect. And yeah, he actually hit me up one time. He's like, "Man, you need to get down here. This is right up your alley." He says to me. You know, and also I'd like to go on. I don't know if you've heard of Capital Wrestling.
I have.
Well, one of the guys that is a big part of it is a guy by the name of Ash Samuels. I've known Ash since he was part of Ring of Honor. He was on Lit. I don't know if you remember Lit in Special K. But I mean, I got to meet all.
Yeah, Special K.
Yeah, and he's doing great things with Capital Wrestling.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, they just brought in, I think they both did, but they brought in Christian Casanova, if I'm not mistaken. And in one of the promotions, the whole Killer Nova group went together. Now that's something that I want to see. Yeah. I want to see when Christian makes it to the next level that the company takes the rest of them too, because it's just a cool thing.
Now, Christian Casanova right now, NEW made a brand spanking new championship. It's called the Live Championship, which is they do one match.
Yep.
It's at the Bethany shows.
Okay.
And when they do it live, it's on YouTube, and you can watch that match live, and it's its own specific title called the Live Championship.
Nice.
Christian Casanova is the only holder of that title right now with a couple defenses under his belt.
Nice. And he's the chaotic heavyweight champ too. You know, the kids winning belts everywhere.
I think his last opponent for the Live Championship was Richard Holiday, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, another talented guy. I'd like to just bring up a bunch of guys, if you don't mind, that I really enjoy. And like you said, the people out there should be watching on YouTube and stuff. Nico Silva, unbelievable talent. You know, Christian Casanova, Mike Verna, Anthony Green. Like I said earlier, I said all of Killanova. I think they're called Culture Season now. But all of those guys, so much talent to watch in New England. As a young kid named Brett Ryan Goslin, who's making a name for himself. Girls came up from New York to make a name for themselves. Chris Statlander, who's now in AEW. You know, she was trained at Creative Pro. She started working up here with Chaotic and other companies, you know. Just a lot of phenomenal talent up here, don't you think?
There is, because wrestling is so flourishing, it's created the atmosphere to have so many men and women want to do it now. And I think that's what's happened over the past 5-ish years or so. Yeah. I want to say the indie scene has always been there, but it's changed because of just the way territories went away, and it kind of opened more doors and stuff. And it's more of a communal thing than, no, this is my place. No, this is my place kind of thing. Yeah. You can't work over there because that's that territory. It's not like that anymore. It's not old school feel like that. So it's very flourishing. So that's why I say, if we need people to rise, have, you know, to be able to rise the independent men and women, because not that they're not doing all of the sacrifices and work on their own, but wrestling is so hard that, you know, like you just mentioned a bunch of names. Like I had TJ Crawford, Creative Pro. He was on my show.
Great wrestler.
Come on, man. He was just on Impact twice. Yeah. I mean, something's going to happen with these boys and girls, but they put in the work. They make those sacrifices. They take the time. They work on their gimmick. They use their promos. There's so much to becoming a wrestler. And, you know, Leo, when I get those little thanks on the side, or when they say, you know, we appreciate what you're doing and stuff, and I don't do it for me, not at all.
Neither do I. I hear you.
For the fans, because then we get to learn about new people that we didn't, or get to know more about the people that we already see in the ring.
Absolutely.
And it's to push their brand up, because they're their own salesmen. I mean, who the hell sells for them? They do. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just a couple of names I got to mention because I almost forgot them. Channing Thomas. Alec the Prize Price.
Yes.
Right? CJ Cruz. Tyler Cintron, Charlie Cashew. There's just talent up the wazoo around here. The women wrestlers, there's phenomenal women wrestling. I mean, I just love New England independent wrestling. And I mean, I'm so glad you reached out to me.
Absolutely, because we missed our date. But again, Todd Graham stepped in, and not only that, he
Good
signed
guy.
an IWTV contract right here on Stirring the Pot. That was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome because Todd's a great, great guy. I've had him
Yeah.
on my show like 4 times. I always love having him on because he's so well spoken. He's a wise ass when he wants to be. He can be funny. No, it's the truth. I'm trying not, all right, no, how do you really feel about Todd Graham? Oh, I hate him. No, I'm just kidding. He really is a great guest. And I watched that one that you did with him, and he's a great guest. And all the props to him for signing that contract on the air. That's a great thing that he did for you too, and you did for him.
Yeah, that was one of the. I talk about special moments in wrestling, in our wrestling history, because WWE is its own thing. They have their history moments. AEW now has their own moments. We have our moments, and it's the little things that you remember, you take away, that you never forget, and that's one of them. Todd Graham signing an effing contract on my show. I mean, come on.
Yeah. He know something? If he wanted to, he could have did it at home and went live. You know what I mean? Instead, he did it on your show. That's so cool, man.
It's the love
that
that
guy Todd is.
Yes. It's the love that we all, as fans, to wrestlers, to referees, to ring announcers, to promoters, to whatever. It's the love that we all share between us. And man, I'm so glad that I kind of found wrestling. I know it was way late in the game, but man, I've been having an absolute blast.
I'm glad to hear that, daughter. You keep doing what you're doing because you're doing great things down there, really. And I'm sure because wrestlers have hit me up telling me, like Joe Bruin, who runs the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame and the Fan Fest. I'll never forget one day he hit me up and he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know you're doing great things." I'm like, "Whoa," you know what I mean? Then I'm like, "Well, thank you." He goes, "No, really, think about it, Leo. You're showcasing these New England talents, and you're doing it with a smile on your face. You're doing it because you want to." He goes, the service you're giving these guys. And I was just blown away that someone would take the time and say that. And I got that from other guys. Like I told you, Mike Hollow sent me that message that time saying he enjoyed some of my shows, And again, like I said, right away, I thought the negative thing. Well, what about the other shows, But yeah, I mean, and guys have reached out to me. I've reached out to them, and it was tough. I didn't get to have a guest on. And I'm going to say this. I've never really said this on air anywhere before, but I was warned not to have Derek Dukes as my co-host. People were like, "Oh, that nobody will go on your show because of him, blah, blah, blah." Didn't matter to me. I love Derek still, whether he's my friend, if he likes me or not anymore. He always was a good dude. I'll always have his back if anything he ever needs. You know what I mean? But people told me that. And then when he was gone, people came on the show, and I'm not going to say who it was, but they said I didn't want to come on because I wasn't a fan of Derek, and I'm like, well, he's always been good to me. So that's why I had him on helping me. You know what I mean? But yeah, I've had guys come right out and say it.
You run into that stuff, especially doing this media stuff. I've run into it before, it is what it is, I guess,
Right.
You just
I had a fan.
Go ahead.
No, I had a fan stop me one time in the store. His name is Brandon Belanger. He's now training at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy. And I just stopped me out of the blue. No one ever did that to me. And they're like, "Hey, your name Leo?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you have a wrestling show?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You watch it?" He goes, "Yeah, I watch it whenever I get the chance." I said, "Oh, that's cool. Thank you." Right? I was flattered. Then he hits me with "Do you ever think about having fans on?" So I'm like, and I said to myself right? All the qualifications to be on my show is you have to be a wrestling fan. If you're 7, 8 years old and you know a lot about wrestling, you can be on the show. You just, right? So I said, yeah. I said, "Do you want to be on the show?" And he said, "Yeah." And Brandon just set a record for his 8th appearance a few weeks ago. And it's just awesome, but to be recognized, it's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's fun. Wrestling is the way you speak of it, very passionate, very loving of the sport, entertainment, whatever the hell you want to call it. I love wrestling, man. It is what it is, and we're all sharing this whole vibe. There's no way that I've even I've definitely touched the surface. We've been about an hour and 10 minutes. We've gotten to know. You've shared some cool stuff with us, the fans. So we've definitely gotten to know Leo way better than we did before. But maybe in the future, yeah, maybe in the future we can reconnect because I still got way more I'd like to ask you.
Absolutely. Maybe we can even meet up if you're going to go to the Fenway show this year. Maybe we can meet up there because I plan on going.
All right.
That way you don't have to come all the way up here. I don't have to go all the way down there. We don't even have to Skype. We can be in the same room. We can
That
finally meet face to face.
That might be a good idea at the Fenway show. We'll have to get that set and rolling. Hopefully this year it stays. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, they canceled the Hall of Fame and the Fan Fest. As me and Sonny were going to have 2 tables. I was going to have one for the wrestling show and one for the cooking show. And referee Richard Landon was going to get inducted, and he's family to me. He's the first cousin of the mother of my older kids. I've known referee Richard Landon for about 36, 37 years, Yeah. So I was really excited to see him. He's getting inducted. And Trooper Gilmore, like I mentioned him earlier, James Allen, he was one of the first guys I met, first guys that treated me like an equal in a way, I want to say. And I'm so excited that they are getting inducted. And Joe Bruin has already said it's definitely going to happen. We just need to figure out when this is going to end. This coronavirus stuff.
Well, once some normalcy comes back, wrestling comes back, we get to reconnect the fans, the wrestlers with the fans. I cannot wait for when that time happens. We all are just waiting. Mr. Connors, you have been gracious with your time. Thank you. You've shared some cool stuff with the fans, and I really appreciate that. So before I do let you go, where and what time? And I know it's a funny time right now. Okay, so you can talk about your normal business hours, we'll say.
Okay.
When and where can you watch your show on a normal time frame? But right now, when it's all kind of weird, what are you doing right now for your show?
Okay, right now I'm doing Skype, and we haven't been able to go live in a few weeks. I've done 3 Skype episodes. It's always, my show is always on Monday nights at 6:30. If you can watch live by just going to my YouTube page, Leo Connors, and the link, once they put the live feed up, you can watch along because a lot of times they set it up and you can see me and the guests talking,
Okay.
And then they skip a couple of minutes and then boom, I start the show. Monday nights at 6:30. One other thing, when I have a certain guest, okay, like I feel has done a lot in the New England, and let's say I'm booked for 3 months, well, I will find an open studio date and get that person in quicker. I've had people say to me, even fans, can I get in any quicker? And I'm like, no, that's reserved for the legends that I will not make wait. You know what I mean? Like Slick didn't have to wait, even though he turned me down the first time I asked him. But then when he hit me up, I was like, absolutely. And I ended up doing him. I did a second show that night. It was him. Yeah. He was the second show, and I had him on Skype. So, I just want to thank you for this.
Oh, no, this was amazing. Like I said, this is the way we try to do it. Couple friends hanging out, and now, again, before I let you go, though, you said that you take fan questions. If fans that are watching this and go look up Leo Connors, Connors.
Yes.
Is that where they would go for the Monday evening questions to put it in there on Facebook?
On Facebook, I usually try to put the post up for my guest on Monday. I try to start on Thursday or Friday. You know what I mean? If you noticed, I just put one up because I'm so excited. I'm actually doing the show Tuesday this week instead of Monday at 6:30. Oh, no, I'm sorry, at 6 p.m. with my special guest, Trooper Gilmore, James Allen, the guy I just been discussing with you, a guy I've known for over 20 years.
Wow, so awesome.
Yeah, so that's basically it. On Monday nights, I put it up on YouTube. You can go to my YouTube channel, Leo Connors, like you said, Connors. I'm also on Instagram as Bost Brew, BOSTBRU. I'm on Twitter, also at Bost Brew, and that's how you can get a hold of me.
All right. Mr. Connors, it's been an absolute pleasure because this is for us, the fans, and we are all fans no matter what part of the spectrum we are in this. And I thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure, sir.
Thank you. Same here, Don. It was great talking to you. Finally, talking to you face to face like this. Thank you again, and take care.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay safe.
You too, brother.
was Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Mr. Leo Connors. Thank you, sir.
Thank you again, Don. Take care of yourself.